Today I fucked up by accidentally hiking a marathon. This is a comedy of errors. I dabble casually in hiking. I've had a couple backcountry trips in my younger years, but as of lately I'm pretty out of shape and working mostly an office job. In the past year or so, I've maybe done 5-6 hikes that a gal pal would drag me on. Maybe 5K, 10K max, but they felt okay. All this to say, that I probably have just enough experience, and little enough actual fitness, to be dangerous to myself. Visiting Banff this week, I knew I wanted to do a pretty significant, for me, hike, and cruised AllTrails for a good one. I found the Aylmer Lookout at Lake Minnewanka. AllTrails says it's 23 kilometers, and an out-and-back hike. I figured okay, a challenge, but I'll hike 12, take a break at the summit, and then hike 12 back out. Knowing this is the longest I'd ever attempted, I set a boundary for myself that if I hadn't reached the summit by 2 p.m., I would have to turn around and kiss that gratifying view goodbye for the sake of getting back to the car by sunset. And trying to be realistic about having to trek the same distance back out. Mistake number 1. Not understanding that AllTrails gives you the one-way distance of an out-and-back hike. I prepared myself well in the morning. Bear spray and bells, plenty of food and water, layers of clothing, sunscreen, emergency supplies and my medications. This is one credit I will give myself. I did ensure that I had everything I needed for a big hike. I also had this handy-dandy new Garmin watch to help me track the hike cool. This was mistake number 2, we'll get to that in a second. I set off. Hour 1 was delightful and flew by as I chatted with another family on the trail. They turned around at the first pretty bridge, and then I was on my own. Hours 2-3 were also lovely. I was marveling at the views, enjoying the fresh air, and generally vibing. My body felt great, even if I was feeling the burn. Oh sweet summer child, if only she knew. Hour 4 the ascent started, and I was feeling pretty pleased with myself. I figured since it was about noon that I was way ahead of schedule, and would certainly be at that majestic and coveted viewpoint well before 2 o'clock. I started listening to an audiobook, and channeled by inner badass female warrior as I started huffing and puffing my way up the mountain. This is where I started to crack. I severely underestimated how much harder it is to consistently hike up with no flat reprieves. Regardless, I persisted for 2 more hours. There were lots of breaks, and one very nearly puking moment I was able to stave off with some Gatorade, banana chips, and a gravel. Thank goodness for my pocket pharmacy. This is also where I peed trailside for the first time. Despite my best diligence and efforts, I did indeed find a tick on my belly later that day. Yuck. All the while, I'm watching the numbers tick upwards on my Garmin. The KMs seem to be going by significant other slowly, but I chalk it up to being a chunky lady with little legs and elevation being harder and slower. I summit, take some photos, and head back down. Thank goodness downhill goes quicker than up. The rest, I'm thinking I was mostly in a fugue state. My phone was on low battery, so the audiobook had to stop in the interest of keeping the last of the battery for emergency and continuing to update my safety person on my locations. So I raw-dogged the long way home with just my thoughts. Thoughts like, you can do anything, even if you're slow. This will be a new personal record, and the hardest part is over. I also thought thoughts like, do I remember how to jerry-rig a tourniquet if a bear rips my arm off? Oh, did I not mention I was in grizzly territory? I didn't bring the bear spray just for funsies homies. The way home seemed impossibly slow. Why are the KMs ticking by so slowly when I keep putting one foot in front of the other? I'm definitely going the right way, so I guess I'm just slower than I thought perhaps? I finally, blessedly, make it back to the car. 8:45 a.m. to 7:15 p.m. What a day. But I beat the sunset, and I had totally expected my legs to be jelly after 24 kilometers, so I'm calling it a win at this point. I get back to the hotel and a friend cheers for me, says I'm a crazy ass for doing a 24K hike. Proudly, I pull out the Garmin app to show her my stats. Miles. 24 miles. And with 1,000 mile of elevation to boot. For all y'all who aren't aware of the conversion, that's about 40 kilometers. Quadruple the distance I had ever done in a day. Almost a literal motherfucking marathon. The combo of not understanding how AllTrails measures an out, back, and not looking closely at the units of measurement on that fancy new Garmin watch, means I accidentally did a marathon and I didn't even know it till it was done. So anywho, yeah, it's morning now and I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to walk on the plane. Tears of joy. Too long did not read. Stupid Canadian with short legs doesn't understand units of measurement, accidentally hikes 24 miles as a result, but did not puke. And here's the sauce. Well, now you know for sure you are a badass. Worth it. Good luck for next time. For all y'all Americans, that's about 40 km. We don't know what the heck a km is. You told us it's 24 miles, that's what we needed. Cold sweat smile. You're a beast, OMG. I hope you got fed really well after that. Honestly, one of my favorite parts of hiking is coming off the mountain knackered and eating like a gannet. That's badass, but also scary to think about. Glad you're safe and it all turned out well flushed. Today I fucked up and I am the most embarrassed I've been. This happened last night, 22M. Matched with this girl on Hinge, 21. And she seemed way out of my league, like one of those people who just radiates competence, you know. Her profile had this little line that said, "Ask me about my year in Paris." So I did, and she told me about how she studied abroad there and spoke fluent French, and casually asked if I spoke any too, and instead of just saying no like a normal human being, I said mais oui because it sounded charming in my head. With the help of good ol' Google too. She laughed and that should have been the end of it, but my dumbass ego decided to double down and convince myself that I could fake it enough to sound cultured or at least mildly impressive. So I spent the next 2 days cramming French like I was studying for the final exam of a class I forgot I was even taking, watched YouTube videos, listened to pronunciation guides, practiced little phrases in the mirror, and even downloaded Duolingo like it was gonna magically make me fluent overnight. Date night comes and she picks this wine bar that's super cozy and low-key, candles, soft jazz velvet chairs, the kind of place where you feel underdressed no matter what you wear. She looked amazing. We start talking and she's telling me all about Paris and how she misses hearing French all the time, and I think, okay, this is the moment, this is where I show off my skills. So I look her dead in the eye and say je suis très baguette. I used Google Translate whatever. She laughs hard and I am thinking I nailed it and I am absolutely crushing this date. So then I try to keep the vibe going and say what I thought meant I like red wine, which was j'aime le vin rouge de la bibliothèque, except yeah, apparently that means I like red wine from the library. She just looks at me confused and says, wait, what? I repeat it and try to act like I meant it, and she blinks a few times and says, why the library? That's when I realize I'm in deep, I've overcommitted and I've got nothing left in the tank, so I start stringing together any French words I remember from Duolingo, which basically amounts to fromage très bien le chien est sur la table. Now she's just staring at me like I've glitched, and then she suddenly switches into full speed actual French like she's testing me, and I instantly regret everything. I have no clue what she's saying. I catch like 2 words and just panic smile and start nodding and going oui oui like a complete moron. I probably said oui 5 times in a row. Then she stops mid-sentence and goes in English, you don't speak French, do you? I pause, try to think of a lie or an excuse or literally anything, but all that comes out is not even a little bit, and then just starts laughing, like full on laughing, and I'm sitting there feeling like an idiot while I am redder than a tomato by the second. She ends up paying for the wine, which made it even worse somehow, like I felt like a little kid who just got babysat by someone way cooler. I probably shouldn't worry about that part too much, but it just adds salt to the wound since I enjoy providing. As we're leaving she says, text me when you learn a sentence that doesn't involve libraries. I texted her letting her know I am on Duolingo. Most embarrassing date ever, and it's my fault. So yeah, today I fucked up by trying to impress someone with a language I absolutely do not speak and got roasted into oblivion in a velvet wine bar. TLDR, tried to impress a Hinge date by pretending I spoke French. Blurted out nonsense phrases like, I like red wine from the library. She called my bluff by speaking real French. I panicked and said, oui, 5 times. She laughed, paid the bill, and told me to text her when I could form a sentence that made sense. Edit. Not sure how to add a flare after I made the post. Sorry mods, sad face. Babysat by someone way cooler is killing me. It is such a perfect description. Oh my brother. This ain't shit. You're going to be way more embarrassed about other things in the future. This is more cute than anything. You're the most embarrassed you've been, so far. So you're saying there's a chance? Don't believe this happened. You watched Key and Peele recently, didn't you? Today I fucked up, accidentally presumed a gender role and offended an executive at work. We had a morning tea at work today, knew and don't know a lot of people outside of my work. It was someone's birthday and the executive bought a cake. He was talking about how his wife was celiac and he'd brought a cake. After the formalities I introduced myself to the executive, to meet a new face and say thanks for the cake as a fellow celiac. I said it was nice of his wife to make a cake. It came from him talking about his wife and the cake in the same sentence, and some silly assumption on my part, but he made the cake, not his wife, and he instantly called me out for gender stereotyping. I apologized and I think we laughed it off, but it's a bit of a blur. I do have a feeling he was genuinely offended. We changed the subject and chatted for a few minutes. All day I have been feeling bad. Please tell me how bad this was, like mildly bad or like holy bejesus bad. Also, is my apology sufficient or should I make an effort to apologize again when I next see him? For context, my household has almost no gender stereotyping roles. My husband is home 3 days a week with our child while I work. Hours we share the cooking, washing and cleaning. Adding the context to say that I acknowledge my comment was bad. But definitely wasn't intended from a place of assuming his wife cooks all their food. Too long did not read. An executive brought a cake that he made and I assumed his wife made it because of her allergy, not because she's a woman. He was offended. ETA. Thanks all for your replies, some of you gave me a good laugh. I let it go by the end of the day and it stopped bothering me. I think most of you are right, he probably forgot it too with bigger fish to fry. Hard hands. Have your husband bake something and bring it in. Then if the exec assumes you made it you'll be tit for tat. Checkmate. Was he offended or did he think it was funny you assumed and was just ribbing you? Either way I guarantee he doesn't remember the interaction anymore so neither should you. Ask him for the recipe and tell him the cake was amazing. Cold sweat smile. If he got genuinely offended, that's on him in my opinion. Are you sure he wasn't just teasing you for your assumption? I am a guy who knits and have had some funny reaction. I usually just laugh it off and joke about it. Like, if someone assumes the supplies I am buying are for my wife, I will go on about her being an awful knitter and completely unwilling to learn despite my efforts or something to that effect. I wouldn't bring it up again. Just move on now. But I'd also take the lesson and try to ensure I didn't do that in future. I understand it was a baseless assumption, but in my opinion I don't think it's that awful of a slip-up, seeing as I read it, he mentioned his wife and a cake in the same sentence. I mean, I brought a cake and it's celiac friendly since my wife has it. Then the brain kinda associates the wife with the cake, you know?